Tonight's Modern Men is powered by the Hero Initiative. Interested in becoming a hero? Go to heroinitiative.org to see how you can be a hero to comic creators in need. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Sunday?
Sunday.
So, yeah, basically the story is we've been preempted for the Westminster Dog Show, so there will be no Raw on Monday night. Sorry for the bad jokes. We got Ryland Grant live tomorrow at 10 p.m. on the Comic Core, so it's the only opportunity he can have to go live on the Core. So he's going to use that platform to basically kick off his Kickstarter tomorrow. So tune in at 10 p.m. tomorrow for Ryland Grant Live right here on the Comic Core. The link is already up, so check that out on our homepage. But let's check out our panel for tonight. Oh, my good God. The beard. I was concerned because it was Sunday. I didn't know if it was going to be everywhere, but it is just as majestic as ever. Andy, how you doing? How's the beard?
I'm doing pretty well, man. I'd say this beard is worth 2 kings fighting over at the end of the universe, wouldn't you?
No, well, I don't know about that, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, you definitely have the beard stone. But Drew, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm having a great Sunday. I spent the day organizing and logging some comics into CLZ and rebagging some old ratty, terrible poly bags with some Mylar magic and making the replacement therapy happen. So I've been enamored and encumbered and completely buried in comics all day long. It's been a good day.
Well, that sounds like the dream of most people who are watching our show right now. So
all 2 of them.
Yep, all 2 of them. So big thanks. Gee, I wonder who one of those 2 are. Oh, look at that. It's Chris Barrett.
It's Chris Barrett and one of us probably keeping an eye on the chat.
Yeah, now it's just down to one. You called someone out and they just got scared and left. So good job.
Well, it's Sunday. So hopefully we get those rewind viewers on Modern Men sometime tomorrow before the whole Ryland Grant kickoff, which his Kickstarter for his new book Jump goes live tomorrow, and he will be talking about that live with us. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But today, what are we going to talk about today?
Oh, man. We're going to talk about Thanos Wins and Donny Cates, but I'm just waiting for this chat to upload. We got Bob World hanging out in the chat. What's going on, Bob? And then Lisa Noble saying hi. How you doing, Lisa? Nice to see you in the chat today. But yeah, this has been I figured when we made this poll, this one was going to win. So what we did was we just made it all Donny Cates. We're going to do the whole Donny Cates special because let's face it, I feel like anything we would have put up against this, probably Thanos would have won, pun intended, basically. So this is the one that, like, in my opinion, we talked about God Country previously and how that kind of put Donny Cates on the map in terms of, comic book creators. But I think this is the one that jettisoned him into that superstardom we now know him in today, because he's pretty much like Marvel's premier writer. When I went to C2E2 this last February, people had plenty of lines and that stuff, but I can say without a doubt that Donny Cates was the winner of C2E2 in terms of having the biggest line, getting his lines capped Friday through Sunday. Didn't matter what day it was. The response that the people had for Donny Cates was next to none. And there were some pretty good people at that con to go visit as well.
I really miss the days of when this book came out, right?
Yeah.
I had these issues in my hand at Fan Expo Dallas and walked right up to Donny Cates with no line at all. Nobody knew who the dude was. And I got my God Country signed. I got all these books signed. And I have this trade that I bought the day that the trade came out.
Sweet.
Because I got all of the single issues signed and slabbed, and they have since been sold for altogether way more than they're probably worth. And I'm happy that Donny has helped. He helped fuel my my exodus from Baltimore to Chicago for C2E2 when we went 2 years ago with the Comic Core. So that pretty much I sold my Venom run and I sold my Thanos books, and and that got me on vacation to a con to hang out with the Corps. So I will forever be grateful to Donny Cates for that.
I think I bought that last book that you sold too. I think that had
you bought the last one. I think was issue 15.
Yep.
Which is my favorite issue from this run. I actually have the page open to talk about it right now. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into this read, basically. So, actually, before we do, Andy, you told me you actually got a chance to read Volume 2 of the Jeff Lemire Thanos run. Would you kind of like to have any thoughts or sum that one up? Because I never got a chance to read it. You did, so I'll let you talk about it for a minute or two.
Yeah, based on Drew's recommendation, I made it a point to read that before I dipped into Thanos Wins, and I really enjoyed it. And Drew was right last week where, thinking about that story, maybe we should have read all 12 for that or focused on those last 6, but that really set the premise for this and really set it up very well, in my opinion. And I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Drew?
Yeah, I reread it as well. And like I said last week, it reads better, those 12 issues together. I think that the second half of that story is really necessary to enjoy where it comes from in the first place. I honestly just misremembered how it all worked.
Yeah,
I would have told you 12 issues in the first place.
I basically just ended up skimming through issue 12 just to kind of see where, he had his final showdown with Thane and basically just killed him off more or less. And then he shunned death. And, basically they remind you that you can't kill death and all that fun stuff. And then he sits on that Chitauri throne at the end of that one. And then where does 13 start? With him claiming the Chitauri throne, basically. So the issue starts off, he's kind of like laid down the law with the Chitauri, which you probably recognize if you saw the Avengers 2012 movie. It's the same alien race. And basically that's when this weird Ghost Rider shows up with his Chains of Sidorak, and they have their showdown. But eventually, somehow, he actually kind of almost bests Thanos, but he has the power of the Time Stone, the power of Mephisto, the power cosmic to help him out, of course. And he uses that power to take Thanos into the future where basically old man Thanos is waiting for him. So, Andy, what are your first impressions of this story, especially since you find out later it's your boy Punisher doing all this?
Right?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Man, after reading Jeff Lemire's run and then now after reading Thanos Wins, I'm really wanting to read more Thanos. I know I said that last week, but this makes me really like Thanos quite a bit, even though he's a villain. My first initial take on this, I had heard years ago when they turned Frank Castle into the Cosmic Ghost Rider. I was like, but why? I'm kind of a Punisher purist. I really didn't like the idea. I kind of shunned it. I like where they took this, though. And I like that story of Frank Castle being a loner on an empty world, an empty Earth for a long period of time, to where he kind of goes psychotic and he kind of goes a little crazy. And he's got these funny quips and funny puns, and he kind of it lightens the mood out of some of the aspects of the story. I do kind of wish that Cates would have taken a little darker turn for as dark as Frank Castle has been for decades as a character. It would have been really cool to see him just like kind of trying to talk to Maria, his wife, or microchip constantly at the side. Like he's got his own little split personality or sidekick. Take a really dark turn with it. But I do like the comedy aspect of it there.
Have you read any of the Cosmic Ghost Rider stuff at all?
No. So I'm looking forward to that now.
All right. So the tone of Frank as being absolutely insane doesn't go away when he's Cosmic Ghost Rider, but it definitely involves his family and his origins as the Punisher. And it's a different look at that character through the lens of absurdity, which is kind of fun for the first volume where Cates writes it, and then after that it is Paul Scheer, comedian, writing it, and it's actually pretty fucking funny. I'll give it its due. I don't think it's as good. I don't think Cosmic Ghost Rider is ever as good as he is in this book. So I think this is kind of the best of it. If you're looking for more Punisher ties to it, that definitely comes down the road. So if you read the next volume, I think that you'll enjoy that. And then Ghost Rider Destroys the Marvel Universe has a lot of that in there as well. So that's something to enjoy.
But it was pretty interesting being a solid solo Punisher reader for so many years and not branching out further into the Marvel Universe. This was nice because this tied me in a little bit further. And it was great how this first book out of the 6 ended with the Cosmic Ghost Rider capturing Thanos and using a shard of one of the Infinity Stones to bring him to King Thanos at thousands of years later. And he's standing there. He's the herald of Thanos, essentially, right?
Yeah. I love the way that this book starts, because it really introduces you to the way that Donny Cates is going to tell this story, which is with the same kind of gravitas that he gives you in God Country, the same great metaphors and descriptive language that really puts you in a place of understanding the setting, really paints a really great picture of everything that is going on in this world. But in this, it's brutal like Thanos, and also tongue-in-cheek at the same time, kind of make you, like, you hear something about Thanos is absolutely brutal, and then, like, you get a smile on your face when you read it. Like, the Chitauri homeworld is below freezing because of its orbit planet, for its orbit path, for years at a time. And they say that you know, part of it is that the battles that take place on Chitauri, because they're a warrior race, the blood splatter turns to like a blood snow that the Chitauri then gather up, the war snow they call it, and feed it like snow cones to their young. It's just kind of one of the coolest things ever. And then, like, when it's like blood snowing, and then when the Cosmic Ghost Rider shows up, the Hellfire melts the snow and it turns into a blood rain. And it's just, and you know, he's just, where's this blood rain coming from? And Thanos is just like, it starts raining blood, and Thanos smiles. It's just hilarious. And then he comes in and he's like, maybe a blood rain wasn't the best way to come in and do this, but, you know, I need you for this thing. And then, of course, Thanos tries to fight him and chains the Sidorak, and then you get the reveal at the end of the issue of Thanos sitting on this throne. But the coolest thing about the throne is that it's in the mouth of the skull of a dead Galactus. So that's a fantastic place for your throne. I thought the first issue really grabbed me and pulled me in. And then you get the second issue starts off with the origin of Thanos. And,
you know, Shaw and Fabula, however it's pronounced, their art throughout this story is phenomenal. It really sets the tone.
Yeah, Shaw's art is he works really well with Donny. He's working with Donny on their new independent project right now. He did the Guardians of the Galaxy run with Donny. They make a good team, and I love the way Jeff Shaw draws Thanos. He has weight to him. You know, sometimes I think his head's maybe a little too small, but he has this thing where he's just gigantic, and I really dig the way he's drawn.
Yeah, the only kind of minor nitpick I have on the art, I would have liked it if they shown the size difference between the two Thanoses a little bit more.
Yeah,
I didn't. Maybe it's just because I don't know. I was trying to read it as fast as I could to get ready for the show tonight, but I didn't really notice there was a big size difference till like the last 2 issues of this arc.
Agreed.
Whereas I was like, oh, King Thanos, because he's absorbed so much more power than, you know, the Thanos that we know, he appears a lot bigger in some of the panels. And I would have liked to at least see that opening shot of them, or maybe it was, and I just thought it was perspective, but I would have liked to just see like a little bit more of the differences between the two Thanos characters they have here. But yeah, as we kind of go on in the story, I mean, it's just like your perfect, you know, the end or Elseworld story as you keep going on. You find out that more or less that Thanos, he's just conquered everything and everybody in the cosmos. You see him fighting an old man Thor and the fires of hell, basically. But you want to remember that Thor hammer for later. You kind of get to know a lot of what's going on through Cosmic Ghost Rider. He keeps teasing like, oh, that's who I am, but we'll save that story for another time. That's why it takes a couple issues to get into it. But eventually you learn that they have the Hulk chained up in the basement when he's saying, we got to go feed the dog. So what do you guys think of the Hulk in this one?
I think the Hulk is great.
Yeah, and I was pretty surprised.
Yeah, I kind of, like, if it wasn't for the cover, I kind of thought I forgot he was in it from the first time I read it. But yeah, once they have that like shocking panel, I do like what I wish I would have uploaded the panel because you can vaguely see a Magneto helmet among the crowd, and they kind of start alluding to the people they've made him eat. Basically, they said they fed him Steve Rogers. You can assume that he's eating Magneto, maybe even a little bit of Frank Castle. I think he even talks a little bit about that, how he's fed to him once, and it's just like, how crazy is the Hulk got in that basement?
And
I think my favorite part about issue number 2 is the beginning. It really, you get the gist of Thanos rising in the first 2 pages. Then you get the Infinity Gauntlet all the way through the Conquest, all the stuff that happened in Infinity, and you see that death was there all along. It says always there was death. But the thing that drove Thanos' mother insane was when she looked into his eyes and saw death.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always this cosmic constant of death in the eyes of Thanos. And it keeps flashing back to that throughout the art, the theme that, there's that death is always with him. It says, the Phoenix, but then it goes into all the constants in the universe and how it's, his destiny to win. It says the Phoenix burns, Galactus devours, the Watcher witnesses, the Celestials judge, Thanos lives, Thanos denies, Thanos wins. And that's how the book starts with, the number 1 issue says that, all the heroes, they have a fear, and that common fear is that eventually they'll lose, that eventually everything will come to an end. And that common fear is that they'll all tell you it's the same thing. And their fear is that Thanos will win. And the fact that he, they keep seeing death in his eyes, and it even comes back to later to telling you, that she's a constant in his mind. When we just saw at the end of volume 2, he turns his back on death. So you come to find out that King Thanos at the end of time brought Thanos Jr. Here to basically to help him find death, which I thought was pretty awesome.
That last page is a giant memorial statue to death in a river of blood, which that's when I really started to realize, well, this is a love story too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the unrequited love story.
Yeah.
I also kind of like the scene where they kind of talk about the importance of the name Thanos when he's born. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who exactly the narrator's supposed to be, if it was just Donny Cates himself or whatever, but he talks about how his mother didn't name him Thanos, but when she looked into his eyes, it's as if the wind whispered Thanos. And then that's where she came up with the name, basically. But they also, when they first meet, Thanos obviously thinks it's an imposter or trick, but to prove that King Thanos is also Thanos, he utters their actual name that their mother was going to name them, and she reveals that name when she was killed by Thanos. So I thought that was like a cool sequence going back to when he was born and when he had to kill off his mother. But yeah, you said Drew, issue 3 was your favorite, and I think it was.
Issue 3 is probably my favorite issue of comics within. Marvel wise, I would say I'm a huge fan of that. DC did the origin of Super Sons. It was like with Superman number 10. It was that's probably my favorite DC issue of like the last decade. But number 15, Thanos 15, is probably my favorite issue of comics in the last decade. You get the reveal that the Hulk is his dog. You get the reveal that he's Cosmic Ghost Rider's Frank Castle. You get the Frank Castle origin story, right? Was that this one or was it 16?
Yeah, no, Frank Castle origin, I believe, was also in that one. They accomplish a lot in that issue,
right? You also 16 is the Frank Castle origin story.
Oh wow!
But you get the reveal that the antagonist in the book is Silver Surfer Black. The first appearance of Silver Surfer Black in this book as well. And I think that my favorite thing about it is the introduction where they tell you about the penance stare and how people would go mad from the penance stare and pluck their own eyeballs out and kill themselves to never have to have those memories again. He says, of course, but then of course there's Thanos, and it says reveals for him, it reveals acts so vile and wretched that we can't even bear to show them to you here. And the things they show you are like mass graves and heads on pikes and destructions of planets and him holding heads. And it says it's an endless black symphony composed by hands and teeth through time. A love letter written in blood and spilled, unread and unwanted across the stars. And it says, but these aren't his darkest secrets and regrets. These are his fondest memories. And it just so encapsulates him, right? And then it comes back to, when he's talking to him about death, he's like, what did you see? I know what you saw, boy. I know what you saw in there. You saw that death was always there with you. And it's the truth of the matter that he isn't over death. I love that thread throughout this entire story.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I also love when he's like, Frank Castle, and holds his hand out, and he's like, I've never heard of you, and just walks away.
I get kind of like from the last issue of the Lemire run, where he does, like, when death does get cast away, he actually does kind of show concern about death. So when I read this and he was just like, in my timeline, I cast her away, whatever he says, I'm like, yeah, he absolutely did not. He's lying to himself. But Andy, what were you going to show there?
That was that Frank Castle panel where he's holding his hand up. He's like, hey, Frank Castle, I'm Frank Castle. And this is after he's spent the time to clean up King Thanos' lunch leftovers or dinner leftovers. Like he's his lackey just cleaning up the kitchen.
Oh, he's got to feed something to the dog.
Yeah, and he's taking it down to feed to the dog, which ends up being Hulk.
He's got something to do. It's the end of the world.
That's got to be my favorite one-page panel out of all this, is where they go to feed the dog, and it's just a pit of bones and just stuff and skeletons. And now I'm starting to look for that Magneto helmet you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like the first review. It's like it's so tiny. It just caught the corner of my eye.
It's there. It's there.
But yeah, going on in the story, like you get that whole like showdown with Silver Surfer Black, but you also get that origin of Cosmic Ghost Rider where he basically sells his soul to the devil 3 times. So actually, in retrospect, I think that may almost actually be my favorite. I thought it was issue 15, but it was actually issue 16. So Andy, you've been criticizing your boy. What did you think of the origin story for all this?
It was short. It was sweet. It was wrapped up as best as they can to fit this in. And I like what they did with it. You mean just beyond the original origins of Punisher, but to where he became the herald of Thanos, basically. Yeah. I think they did all right with what they had available. I would have liked to have seen more, but to be honest, the only way you could do more of that is to actually do his own run aside of this. You know what I mean? Like
I kind of love him before he gets the Cosmic, when he's just the Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
He's like white boots, white gloves, and just his arms and his head are on fire.
Yeah, show the other panel too while you're on that same page.
He's like,
I do like that part where he's just like, I would have done anything to kill that purple jerk, and then it just shows Mephisto go, anything, and then he's standing in front of Mephisto. I really like that part too. And actually, that's one of those parts that reads well in the comic because I read it digitally, and I like that whole like reveal where you have to turn the page and then it just hits you in the face. Yeah,
I think it's really well put together. But like, you also get, Thanos destroying
yeah,
everybody.
that's
So
one of
him
the
like
favorite
ripping Iron Man in half while he's in
Yep.
the suit. It's like, come on.
So it was really part origin of the Frank Castle becoming the Cosmic Ghost Rider and the Herald of Thanos and the Herald of Galactus and the Herald of Thanos.
Yep.
And it was part Thanos conquering Earth, right? Because that was a really important part to see Iron Man ripped in half and a lot of that other stuff was really cool. And you know what? The going back through this, looking at it, they actually gave it more time and they gave it more thought than what I anticipated on my first read through. And I think they actually did really well. I mean, there's not a lot of room available to fit a lot of that in without doing a whole nother comic book.
And
So I
that's
think they did
basically
really
what
well.
they ended up doing.
There's this really great double page splash as well of King Thanos with Surtur's sword and Thanos and the Cosmic Ghost Rider fighting against the Black Silver Surfer, and he has at his beck and call the Annihilation Wave, which Frank's like, oh yeah, I forgot, I have all kinds of powers, and he just like supernovas and kills all the Annihilation Wave at once. And he's just like, what does he say? He's like, I always forget I can do that stuff.
I could have done it without you.
But that leads to the biggest reveal of this issue. And every reveal at the end, like every hook to bring you back in this book is absolutely phenomenal. But, Thanos at the end of time, there's two Thanoses. They've got the Cosmic Ghost Rider. They're fighting against Silver Surfer. And they said, there's no chance you're going to win this. Why would you have taken all that time to wait for this battle? And he says that he didn't spend that time wasting it. He spent that time becoming worthy.
Yeah.
And you see he's holding Mjolnir, which is a really cool panel there.
That was my mic drop moment.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the mic drop moment of this book. I think the way that Silver Surfer and Mjolnir meet their end is the mic drop moment of this book.
Yeah.
The next book talks more about that, and I really love the cover for 17 with the Infinity Gauntlet coming down. That after Steranko cover. Absolutely love that. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, my only kind of criticism of the storyline going forward is I would have liked to see Silver Surfer get a little bit more offense in here. He basically had to spend. Oh, now Andy's gone too. Great. I was talking to myself, I guess. All right, so yeah, basically what happens is you have Silver Surfer. There's Andy. Silver Surfer, and he's got Mjolnir. Did you just kick yourself out?
Yeah, I bumped my mouse and hit the back button.
Nice. But yeah, I was saying I would have loved to see a little bit more offense from Silver Surfer. He spent all this time getting Mjolnir, which I guess, the way Thor went down, probably not the best idea because Thor had Mjolnir and he still lost. So they throw the Hulk at him basically because once he destroys their house, it sets Hulk free, which they got that gag where they're like, they like to do this part where they like, oh, you're going to get hurt or something like that. They're like, no, I'm not going to get hurt by you. It's like, I wasn't talking to you. And then it's like somebody else jumps from out of
the blindside gimmick.
Exactly. Yeah. So the first person to do it was Hulk. He goes after Silver Surfer, but basically Silver Surfer tames the Hulk, turns him back into Banner. He goes, Hulk, kill, please kill me. And then it turns back into Bruce Banner. And he's trying to console Banner and kind of get his head right. And that part, that's where, they both get stabbed at the same time by King Thanos and Surtur. So I was a bit disappointed by that, but I understand that mic drop moment. And, they only had 6 issues. He had to get the show on the road. So, yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit more offense from Silver Surfer Black, but I kind of understand why they had to get to that point.
You didn't see this one.
He does take out Cosmic Ghost Rider, though, so I was happy.
With a tiger uppercut of epic proportion.
So, I mean, that's kind of one of those where they spent a deal of time or a bit of time talking about how the Cosmic Ghost Rider can never be killed. He's already dead, right? So how do we know that he's truly ended there?
He's not.
He's not.
Right?
Yeah, he's not. But
I'm torn between. There's so many good pages in here. There's so many good like just jaw dropping pages in here that and you're leading up to the mic drop moment now.
So yeah, that pretty much just leaves the two Thanoses, and that's where Death shows up in what appears to be a wedding dress, and then that's where I believe we go into the final issue at that point, where it's revealed that King Thanos didn't bring younger Thanos here to kill Silver Surfer Black or anything like that. He brought him here to kill King Thanos so he could finally embrace and be with Death. So you get the final showdown that they've been building up for 6 issues where both Thanos get to fight each other. And I feel like King Thanos was holding back a little bit, to be honest. Like, I was just like, really? We're supposed to expect that, like, the Thanos who's got all this power is going to get, he's begging on his knees for young Thanos to kill him. And even Thanos calls his bluff. He's just like, you will not go down on your knees begging to die. And then that's when he's like, I will not turn into you. And he uses the corpse of Silver Surfer Black to power the Time Stone and just get out of there and promise to erase King Thanos. And that's pretty much where the story ends.
I thought that the best.
Yeah, go ahead.
I really loved how they got Death to show up in the first place, which was they had to kill the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
And the way he killed the Silver Surfer, he took the sword of Surtur and cut off his arm that was holding Mjolnir. And then King Thanos, knowing he couldn't lift Mjolnir, just brought Silver Surfer over and just impaled his head on the handle, sticking straight up, in one of the most brutal murders in the history of Marvel Comics, at least. It's absolutely phenomenal. He just throws his head down on the handle of Mjolnir, and then you see him kind of sitting there in the background, just dead. But she shows up, and it's kind of the final moment where you have this character who has been obsessed with death since his inception. She lives in his eye to the point where his mother, upon first looking upon her child, went absolutely insane. He later murdered his mother. You know, he all the things he did in the name of death, from the Infinity Gauntlet and everything before, from Thanos Rising, and he's finally looking at himself in the face. And it's, I mean, anybody who's ever gone through a breakup has had that moment where they look at themselves in the mirror and they say, you pathetic sap, you know, what are you doing pining for someone who's just going to break your heart again? And that's kind of the gist of this whole story, is Thanos is not over death, but he vows to get over death. So at the end of the story, he fades off. You know, he King Thanos is no longer, because he would never, knowing that his pursuit of death is going to put him on his knees in subjugation to death at the end of the universe, makes him know that he never wants to be that guy. Doesn't want to be that guy at all. So this is a love story. It's a tragedy, and it's a breakup. And, you know, as much trappings of humor and brutal violence as you want to put on it, that they tell that story from the very beginning with him staring himself in the face and seeing what makes him weak and vowing to be stronger.
Yeah, I do like the final sequence as well, where you see like the timeline starts to fade after he leaves, and he's kind of like almost begging death, King Thanos that is. He's begging death, like, how would he do it? How does he erase? I mean, she's just like, my dear, Thanos wins, and then that's where the story ends there. So
yeah,
what I think the two follow-ups to this were Thanos Legacy and Thanos Annual #1. Which, come on, Marvel, you put out an annual after the book is done. Whatever. But anyway, the one story I did like, besides them, they basically segue into bringing back Cosmic Ghost Rider in a panel. which I still need to read that run to see how he got brought back. But the other thing that they establish is how he erased that timeline. And the first thing he does when he gets back, he's teleported back to the Chitauri homeworld. And on the next panel, he's literally visiting Mephisto, and he just goes, "Leave Frank Castle alone. You don't talk to him." And it's basically that's their conversation. So I really enjoyed that part. I think he does one or two other things, but that was the main part. It's like, don't create Cosmic Ghost Rider. Just leave Frank Castle alone. So we're pretty much past the halfway point of our show already. So we'll get into rankings here. So
I want to clear it up for you. In that annual, you get the origin of Cosmic Ghost Rider. He shows up at the door to Valhalla, and Odin's like, "Come with me." And then in Cosmic Ghost Rider #1, like, he is basically feasting and drinking in Valhalla, and he's like, "You know what? This isn't what I'm not right for this place. This place isn't right for me." And Odin's like, "Yeah, you're right. This place is not right for you. You can go back to Earth if you want to be Cosmic Ghost Rider." And he decides that he's going to undo Thanos by killing the Thanos baby. When he gets there, he has a change of heart, and he decides he's going to raise Thanos to be a good guy. And it all goes to shit, and you get Thanos as a Punisher, pretty much, which is one of the cooler panels in the Cosmic Ghost Rider story. But it's worth checking out. I think it's fun. It's not nearly as good or poignant as the story is, but more of the same in a different direction.
Nice. All right, Andy. Well, what do you score in this one?
I have to. I was torn at first, and I'm settling in on a solid 9.6. And why am I settling on the 9.6? Is the facial expressions throughout Jeff Lemire's run into Thanos Wins by Donny Cates here. The facial expressions delivered in the art help capture that story that Cates is writing. And I'm absolutely amazed going back through this a second and a third time, looking at all the facial expressions by Death, by King Thanos and Thanos himself, and even Frank Castle, the Cosmic Ghost Rider. It helps add extra depth and layers to this story, where on the first read, I was just kind of okay, and I'm really digging this. But the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm really understanding how they captured the moments there with the art, with the facial expressions, really delivers that very well. And it hits a lot harder the more I pay attention to that and the more I look. And like I said, this is really making me want to read more Thanos. So I'm really at a solid 9.6 with this.
Nice. What about you, Drew?
The art's phenomenal. The creation of a new character is phenomenal. The use of the continuity of the Marvel Universe to craft something completely new in a way that doesn't really screw anything up, because it's kind of undone at the end. All the loose ends are tied up except for the wonderful things that carry over to the next series for a guy like Cosmic Ghost Rider. The writing, the dialogue is really perfect. The themes throughout are consistent. The prose in the narration is top notch in a way that, like I said, is absolutely brutal, but at the same time brings a smile to your face with the wit and charm with which it's delivered. I think this is a near perfect book. I would say that everything that's done in this book is done to the utmost for the presentation. I think that this right here, plus the annual, is kind of a little bit of a palate cleanser with some really funny stuff in it. The annual is in the trade, so I would say check it out. If you're looking for the same tone, the annual doesn't develop that same tone. The tone of this volume is so freaking dead on. It's a 9.9.
Nice. I think for me, I'd probably say I'd give it a 9.4. I wish that I think the Lemire run should have been a bit shorter, and I would have liked to see this have a little bit more room to breathe in the overall Thanos arc. That all being said, It's just weird that Marvel would put this as an issue 13 because they love their issue 1s the last decade. So it's rare to get an issue 13 of a run that is like a very awesome starting point for a character. I think this 6th issue arc stands on its own. You don't really you kind of just need to know who Thanos is and you're set pretty much. Like you don't need to know a whole ton of backstory. Like it's a good pickup and read from just about anybody. I think Cates has a lot of fun with the end, what if, Elseworld style of storytelling. So he can do these like insane things like make Frank Castle Ghost Rider, then give him the power cosmic on top of it, then give him the Thanos on top of it. There's like it's just so many insane things that he does and presents here. But yeah, he just has fun. And as a reader, you can really see that come out on the page. So I'd probably say 9.4. If it was given like a 12-issue arc, I'd probably say 9.6 to 9.8. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this. It was an easy read. I can't recommend it enough. I think there's a reason that many people have read this, and it basically made Donny Cates their biggest star at Marvel. So, yeah.
This was one of his first stories he pitched. When I talked to him in Texas, I had plenty of time. There was nobody around. I asked him a bunch of questions, and he answered them. Was willing to talk to me for as long as I kind of wanted to stand there and chat it up. And one of the things he said, and I question that whether or not this should have been a number 1 instead of a number 13, because this series ended after this arc.
Yeah.
And they knew that Lemire was done with Thanos, right? That's why when he pitched a Thanos story, they were like, okay, we can bring you in to do this. He did the Doctor Strange stuff first, and then he did the Thanos Wins story arc. Those were his first 2 things he did with Marvel. And he told me that, he had come in and pitched several things, and they had kind of denied him over and over and over again. And he actually pitched his Doctor Strange run after he pitched Thanos Wins. But Thanos Wins is the story that got him in the door, because he said, he told me that he kept getting denied over and over and over again. But when he went in to pitch Thanos, he was just like, well, I'm just going to pitch balls to the wall because the worst thing they can do is say no. He's like, so he felt like he hadn't gone far enough to get people excited. And he basically was like, took every idea he had and went, here you go. And Marvel went, okay. And he went, fucking really? I can do that? And I think from that, you get a really creative story that he's passionate about. And he took this opportunity. I like the stuff he did with Doctor Strange. Don't get me wrong, but like without this story, I don't know if Donny Cates is a nerd household name. Right. This story here is all of the gravitas that he brought to God Country, plus the Marvel machine behind it, plus tongue-in-cheek humor that really lands in a way that I didn't expect. I honestly haven't read anything like this since. I really, really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
I feel like you guys spoil me.
As we segue here, there's a boiling question in the chat. And that is from Ricky Markstadt. Ricky Markstadt, welcome to the stream, bud. Nice to see you.
About 2 weeks ago,
Ricky. He said,
about 2 weeks ago, I got
a haircut. So
I've been wearing a hat for about 2 weeks. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't cut any of the hair on the top, just the sides and the back.
So always nice to see Ricky in the chat. We still got Chris Barrett. He gave Thanos Wins a 9.0 because Thanos doesn't truly win in the end. He has to kill himself after his plans fail.
I think he didn't have to kill himself. Exactly. He denied himself death, which means that he still wins.
That's how
Thanos wins.
That was the bigger twist that at the end made me bump it up another grade, a little bit of a grade 2, because in the end, he denied himself that final killing to ultimately win in the end.
We got John's Comics with Kids. What's going on, man? He says, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Drew is correct. This is the best he's done at Marvel. It's a 9.4 for me.
Let me check John's temperature.
And then Chris
John
Barrett says,
always agrees with me and then says, I can't believe I'm saying I agree with him. It's like his gimmick.
Chris says, I wish they gave Kate Spider-Man during the Absolute Carnage tie-ins. I feel like he'll probably get his day out. They'll pretty much just hand him whatever he wants at this point, I feel like.
I feel like he doesn't want Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like if he wanted Spider-Man bad enough, he would have had it already.
Why write Spider-Man when you did a story like that with Thanos and Silver Surfer and Frank Castle and the Hulk? I mean, like, they're so much better than Spider-Man, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right.
I will say that, Carson, you said you wish this was 12 issues and had more room to breathe.
Yeah.
I feel like Cates has definitely done better on 6-issue arcs than he has on 12-issue arcs.
Interesting.
Really? I really enjoy his Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. That was a 12-issue arc. But like kind of in the middle to back end of it, it meanders for a while, and it feels like he's never going to get where he's going, and it kind of feels stretched. So I think that I would rather his stories feel kind of jammed in than stretched out. That's just kind of the way I feel about it.
Then last comment, Ricky says, I wish they bring Mimic into the movies. Interesting. All right, so before we get into the rest of the Donny Cates topic, let's take some time to visit our friend from the Hero Initiative, Christian Gossett.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Gossett, speaking to you today on behalf of the Hero Initiative, where myself, Jim McLaughlin, Joseph Michael Linsner, and a cavalcade of yet-to-be-announced comic book stars are putting together something really, really awesome that's never been attempted. We're really looking forward to telling you guys more about it, so please stay tuned. As always, everything we do will benefit the great cause that is the Hero Initiative.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and reveal those dates, and we'll see if anyone cares or not. But on June 19th, 20th, and 21st, the Hero Initiative will, of course, we're powered by the Hero Initiative here, but they're going to use our channel to bring to you the 24-hour comic. So it's basically going to be 3 8-hour blocks where they're going to bring all these creators in. They're going to have a block with a writer and an artist you guys are probably already familiar with, and they're going to put together a page of a comic and just keep going every hour on the hour during those blocks. So once we get some more names, we're going to reveal a bunch. But based on what Christian Gossett said there, I'm pretty excited about that. Drew, what are your thoughts on the 24-hour comic starting on the 19th of June?
The coolest thing about this 24-hour comic is we're going to be actually printing and publishing these comics for the Hero Initiative. They will be available for purchase. And basically the creative process is going to be taking place live right in front of you guys. And if you're in the live chat and you're throwing out super chats and you're throwing out ideas, maybe these ideas could make it into this comic. It's going to be short and sweet, but it's going to be something that hopefully over the next we can get some of these printed up, and when you get back to cons, maybe they'll be available at cons at Hero Initiative booths and things of those nature. But yeah, we're gonna be helping put together a comic with really an all-star cast. Every single person whose name comes up, I'm like, oh, they're either a really awesome person who've worked with before, or an awesome get that we could never imagine we get to work with. So I'm really, really super excited about it. Gossett and Chad and Jim over at the Hero Initiative have been doing a great job putting this thing together, and I'm excited to see it happen.
Nice.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, we're getting a writer and an artist per page or per every two pages?
Per page.
So there's going to be a different group collaborating from page to page.
Yep.
And that portion of it really excites me to see what they put together.
Absolutely. So, like I said, they're like the Hero Initiative and Jim McLaughlin, they're getting a big list together. So stay tuned to Comic Core for more information. I hope we'll have something big to announce this Friday on that. But yeah, the 19th, 20th, and 21st of June, we're going to have a big event here at the Comic Core. So stay tuned for that. Before we get into more Donny Cates, I did want to read Ricky Mark's stat. He says, I get all the Infinity Stones and use stones to give infinite money to you guys. So
I also like Ricky Mark's stat. Guys, if I can't figure out Discord to save my life, right?
Really?
I loaded up the app and I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on with this thing, but Ricky Markstadt started a Comic Core Discord. So if you guys are Discorders, go over and join Ricky Markstadt on the Comic Core Discord and cultivate our community over there. I tried. I guess I'm a boomer. I could not figure it out.
Well, hey, Ricky, shoot me or Carson the link to join that if we haven't already, or the
post it in the chat right now, and we will share it.
And what we can do is I can get that stuff added to all of the descriptions for the Comic Core shows going forward.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
look
definitely.
at that. Andy, you are on Ricky Markstadt Discord duty.
Nice. There you go, Andy. Good job, man. All right, so we got a limited amount of time left. Drew, pitch me why Donny Cates is the premier writer, especially on this. Like, you keep talking about this Inhuman books. So tell me all about Donny Cates, Drew.
He has this way with manipulating the stories that you already know into something completely new, turning them on their ear, but at the same time paying homage and respect to the continuity that came before. But it's like I said in reviewing Thanos Wins, it's just this tone that he has in his narration that builds and builds and builds, and then you turn the page and there's a payoff, and then the next page builds and builds. The next scene, I guess, builds and builds and builds until you turn the page, and the next page there's a payoff. He's constantly moving through the story with descriptive language. He speaks in the language of emotion as well. The anger at the death of his people that Black Bolt feels in Death of Inhumans, you can feel as that story progresses. There's a scene where they kill off Lockjaw that will make you cry. It will make you cry.
That's the only Inhuman I like.
Well, he comes back at the end. Spoiler alert.
Cool.
Yeah. The story itself takes a weird twist, and I find it to be really enjoyable. I really loved his Doctor Strange run. There's Loki is the Sorcerer Supreme, so there's a sense of mischief throughout the entire thing. Doctor Strange is talking to a talking dog. The dog ends up dying, which makes you want to cry. But then he comes back as a ghost companion for Doctor Strange. He's haunted by a talking basset hound, and it's absolutely great. And just the way that he tells these stories, man. Marvel had a Venom problem, right? Eddie Brock didn't have the suit. Flash Thompson had the suit. He was a space knight. He came back to Earth, and some dude named Lee got the suit and was like a villain who was starting to corrupt the Venom symbiote, who had become a good guy. And like Venom was just the biggest throwaway character ever. And try everybody out there in this community, selling books on the internet. Do yourself a favor and try to sell the volume before Donny Cates' run. You won't be able to do it. People won't pay $1 for those books. They're terrible. They're awful. There's one good tie-in with Devil Dinosaur. It's only good because I love Devil Dinosaur. It's got Gerard O. Sandoval art, which is really good. Beyond that, nobody gave a shit about Venom before Donny brought in Null, before he brought in the God of the Symbiotes, Symbiote Dragon, all this stuff, all this, Dylan, the son of Venom, and everything leading up to Absolute Carnage. That was phenomenal stuff because he took something that wasn't viable and added life to it. And he's done that with just about everything that they've given him a shot at. His Guardians run came after a low point Guardians run, in my opinion. And the new Guardians isn't as good as it was underneath him. The Inhuman stuff, man, it's like if you don't like the Inhumans, don't read it. But I'm telling you, it's good. He has this way of making everything fun and adding big moments that make you go, "Oh my god!" And you take good writing, good dialogue, add in the OMG moments, and you pair them with great artists, and he's going to do a good job, man. I can't wait till he kind of peters down at Marvel and ends up going over to DC and doing something there, just because I want to see him work with different tools, you know.
Sure.
But he's a must-read writer, and there's a reason for that. He's a crowd pleaser. He's one of us. He comes from a background of reading and collecting comics, and just a solid dude on top of that. So I don't know, man. I don't know what it is about him, but the guy's nailing it.
Yeah, well, he's a hell of a salesman too, right? Like he's out there on Instagram and Twitter and a lot of the other places.
He's hustling.
He's hustling to the point where you can kind of misread it a little bit, and you think the next issue that he's hyping up is going to be something big. Like a lot of people that speculate on books just kind of look at that, and it's like, well, wait a second, he's hyping up his story for damn good reason, in my opinion, too. So a lot of that stuff at first I was like, oh, I just don't want to see that again. Well, now I'm paying much more attention to it because of the stories and the way he writes them. So it's perfect. I got to make sure that's on my pull list because I want to read it. Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think going back to his Venom run in particular, I think that's his strongest ongoing run. I still need to finish the second half of it, but I really enjoyed the first 10 or 12 issues of it. I just thought it was good. Like, the only other Venom I liked at all before his run was the Rick Remender Agent Venom run, where you got Flash Thompson as Venom, and I don't think that gets enough credit for how enjoyable that was. But the best thing Cates does in response to that, he actually acknowledges that whole run, especially since, like, when he gets the symbiote again, he basically says he has all that training and memories that Flash Thompson gave the symbiote. So they do definitely pay tribute to that. And I just like, he kind of reminds me, he has some traits that Jeff Johns has, obviously my favorite writer, whereas he'll just take like these obscure things that are going on elsewhere or other writers just completely discarded or left for dead, and he'll milk them for all they're worth. Just like he took the Maker and put him in Venom because pretty much I think Marvel is kind of done with the Maker after Secret Wars. So he's just like, that's a great character. I'm pulling him back in.
They also put the Maker in Future Foundation, but that book got canceled before the first issue came out.
He did not write Future Foundation, obviously.
No, he did not, which is, I wish he would have. It would have been good.
It would have been better.
Right. It wouldn't have been a backdoor pilot for a terrible book about half of Power Pack. But the Future Foundation is window dressing. I absolutely agree with you. It takes these little things about continuity that nobody would think to use, like the whole idea of Null, the symbiote god, and the planet of the symbiotes kind of being this cage for Null, and the word Clintar being the symbiote word for cage. That all spawns out of Venom being a space knight and hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Brian Michael Bendis's run on Guardians, where they find the planet of the symbiotes. And he retcons a lot of that stuff, but he also uses a big portion of it as well to kind of mold the direction he takes it in. So, I mean, I don't know how many people were reading deep into the Guardians of the Galaxy run on Bendis. I know a lot of people didn't like that run, but he was on it for 45 issues or something like that. So, but I enjoyed that story, and I enjoyed the fact that he took from that story. At the same time, Null's inspired by the God Butcher in Thor: God of Thunder. So did I say something good about Johns? Teen Titans. This Teen Titans run was good.
Can we put that? We need to read that somehow one day.
Let's read all 112 issues,
or at least the first 6.
Okay, sure.
That's a good.
I can do that.
So we're pretty much at the 1 hour mark here. So any final thoughts on Donny Cates and his? I mean, we didn't talk too much about his independent stuff. I think we talked enough about that during the God Country episode. So any final thoughts on Cates? Andy, I'll start with you.
I think Donny Cates is one of those writers that I got to stick in the back pocket along with Jeff Lemire and a number of others. I wish I had a list right in front of me where anytime something comes out, I've got to grab it to read it. It's just One of the things we talked about in Andy Given Thursdays last week, part 2 of who your favorite publisher is we're starting to find out that some of us as collectors have transcended following publishers to the realm of we're following creators specifically. We're following writers and artists specifically, regardless of where they go. So we've transcended publishers, and we're following specific creators for a reason. And I'm going to take Donny Cates and stick him in that little back pocket right there with Jeff Lemire and a couple others. And that's going to be one of those guys where when I see something come out, regardless of who publishes it, I'm going to be grabbing it.
Drew?
I'm right there with Andy. I think that Donny has become a name to trust in. I'm super excited for the project he's working with Jeff Shaw on right now, which is coming out through Image. He also has a couple other things in the works. Go back and check out the Mainframe Comic-Con Part 1 interview that we had with Donny Cates, where he did so much talking about things that he's got. He's working on right now. He's working on a project with his wife as well, which is going to be an independently released project. And I'm super excited every time he's announced to be doing something new with a different property that I already know, because I know that he's going to take it in a direction that is at least interesting, if not universe altering. He says he changed the universe in a lot of ways with a lot of different things, but he's also oversold some of the reveals of Venom recently. So that being said, I definitely think he works better on smaller runs. The ongoing Venom stuff, I think, is falling off a little bit, just my opinion. But he's one of those names that, like Andy said, he's a name I will follow. If he starts doing Kickstarters, I'll start throwing some money his way that way as well, because I have faith that he's going to put out something that for at least 6 issues is going to be pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I agree with you guys. I think he's become one of these big names you can trust, to the point where if he hypes up something on social media or even says he likes another obscure comic, the speculators will hype that thing up like that comic is going to appear in a movie somehow. So not too many writers have that popularity and power right now. So I think that says a lot for what he's achieved in a very short time, in my opinion. Most of the books that are under the Marvel imprint that he's done, actually, I really want to read now. Hearing you guys talk about them, like Silver Surfer Black.
Oh, God,
definitely want to read that. I want to read the rest of the Venom run. I kind of want to read that Death of the Inhumans now. Well, I might read that and give Drew a report on what I think of it. So, I mean, he's definitely became the probably this biggest writer as of 2020, in my opinion. I can't think of a bigger name that's like as active as he is, I should say. So that pretty much wraps up our Donny Cates special. So now for the old hype machine here. So tomorrow we'll be having the Ryland Grant live. He'll be doing his Kickstarter launch tomorrow live here on the Comic Core at 10 p.m. Eastern. But you guys have seen this image pop up on the show a couple times. That's right. So June 8th, we'll be back live with a Kingdom Come special. So the whole entire show will be dedicated to Mark Waid and Alex Ross's Kingdom Come, all 4 issues of it. We're just going to spend the entire hour talking about Kingdom Come, similar to what we did with Dark Knight Returns. We're going to give that same treatment to Kingdom Come. So absolutely cannot wait for that. It's definitely something I want to force Andy to read at least. So
I've never read it, so I'm excited.
That's right. Drew's never read it either.
Well,
so
force is kind of a strong word. I'm excited to get back into some Superman stuff, because the last stuff that you guys have led me to has been phenomenal.
Yeah, so I mean, I read it as a kid. I think I've only read it 1 or 2 other times since then. It's probably been about a decade since I've revisited it. So I'm pretty hyped for the next episode, seeing what Drew thinks of it, Andy thinks of it, and if it's aged as well and as grandiose as I thought, because it's one of those stories like DC keeps putting animated movies out of everything, and this is one of the stories they haven't really tried to readapt too often. So,
I don't think it's the New 52 inspired animation stuff that they've been doing recently, the Flashpoint stuff that kind of just wrapped up. So maybe the next animated story will be like a Kingdom Come kind of Dark Knight Returns style movie. Maybe we'll be getting
that. Yeah, absolutely. So I can't wait for next week. But until then, Andy, where can people find you?
Hey, everybody can find me here on Monday nights, even though we're going Sunday tonight, Modern Men. We read some, probably some of the most amazing reads out there. Yeah, absolutely. And Andy Given Thursdays every 10 p.m. where we're talking straight up comic book related stuff. Whether it's reading some stuff or storing some books or ordering some books, we're going to talk comic books. And occasionally on the weekends, you can find me over Downright Nerdy Podcast or Bored and Annoyed Podcast channel doing some other reads. And you guys can find me on my own channel. Sub me up, check it out. Looking to do another community thank you giveaway here soon.
Nice. Drew, where can people find you?
You know what? I actually streamed on my own channel the other day. I played some Call of Duty Warzones with some random people and actually got a win, spoiler alert, at the very end of that video. So you guys want to skip to like the last 15 minutes and watch it from there. You can see me kick some ass. You want to watch the first like hour and 15 minutes, you can watch me lose a lot. But yeah, I had some fun doing that, and I'll probably do some more of that coming up soon. And there's new comics coming out on a regular basis now, so look forward to some reviews coming, and I'll see you guys on Fridays as always, as well as that Kingdom Come special on Monday. And apparently I'm hanging out with Rylan Grant tomorrow. So Andy, if you're looking for another writer that you can trust in their name, check out Aberrant and Banjax.
Yep.
And be there to see what he's unveiling on this Kickstarter for a book called Jumper or Jump,
Yeah.
The Jump. I don't remember, but we're gonna find out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And his Kickstarter goes live, so I'm gonna throw some money at him, and he'll forgive me for forgetting right now what his book was.
Yeah, so a few more details on that. That's 10 p.m. tomorrow night on the Comic Core, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And who do we have joining, Rylan?
I don't know, Chad,
You?
me,
Chad and Drew tomorrow, 10 p.m. on the Comic Core.
anybody else?
Maybe even me.
Ooh,
And
a
Andy.
ComicManAndy sighting. Oh my, I don't know if Rylan's ready for that beard. I'll have to ease him into it.
He's going to write a comic about beards after that. But you guys can find me on the Comics of the Atom podcast. Mike and I just recorded the Animal Man episode, and it actually already went up during this episode on iTunes.
Sweet.
So check out the
Oh,
Audio
nice.
Boom link below. If you guys are subscribed to other feeds, it should be up hopefully by tomorrow morning. But it has already hit iTunes on the newest episode. Also, you can find me, Seawater19, on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and on Fridays, typically on Comic Core Roundtable. But just one last plug. That's June 19th, 20th, and 21st. We're doing the 24-hour comic here on the Comic Core. So stay tuned. I hope there's a lot of details coming out throughout the week on that. Until next time, have a good night, guys.